Certified financial planner professionals are certified to provide comprehensive financial planning that can address just about any facet of one's financial life, including retirement, estate planning, taxes, education, and more. For more info, go to letsmakeaplan.org to find a CFP professional for you.
Good Friday morning, everybody. Welcome into this edition of Mike and Mike, or in this case, you want to say it?
Golic and Wingo?
Sure, why not? Coming soon.
Hey, this is not a sneak peek.
We're transitioning.
Been done.
Welcome. Glad you're here with us. Trey Wingo, Mike Golic. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well.
Yeah.
I'm doing well because yesterday's show started with Greeny, and what most of America was doing was mocking the upcoming Thursday night game.
Yeah.
And me, maybe because my heart is obviously in football.
Correct.
And I love it. I was trying to find things to look forward to in the game that would say, okay, the Rams are coming along. What do the 49ers have, even though it's not their quarterback of the future? And look what we got.
Lo and behold, an actual football game broke out.
Unless you're a defensive player going into meetings today for a 41-39 game won by the Rams, you may not be as happy, but it turned out to be a pretty entertaining game, so I was happy about that. But we got a lot going on in the world of sports, some good, some certainly not so good as well, and some continuations from the net talk in baseball after the 4-year-old girl got struck in the face in the Yankees game. So a lot going on. How about you? I watched you on NFL Live yesterday.
Well, thank you very much.
Great story about it. I saw you. I think Teddy was on the show, and you were when you were bringing up some of their losses in Super Bowls.
Right.
But the story of the Patriot fans that left the Super Bowl early.
How great was that, right?
Was awesome. Through their eyes and telling the story, it was fantastic.
Yeah, long story short, it was a Jeff Darlington feature that was on Countdown, and we ran it again yesterday. You know, the Patriots ran up 28-3 in the Super Bowl, and all these guys were like, that's it, I'm leaving. And then they found out that suddenly the Patriots were not losing anymore or rallying, and they watched it from a bar, a parking lot, all this.
Right,
story.
It was really cool.
Well, the funny thing about that one is, like, and my point was, remember when the Miami Heat fans left after Game 6?
Yes.
And then they tried to get back in. We're like, look at those losers. Who would ever do that again?
But
and it was a Patriot fans who
But
didn't
the difference was those guys that watched it from the parking lot tent, they could have got back in.
Right.
But they were the superstitious
Mojo.
saying,
Mojo.
we're not going back in,
Yeah.
because we're here and they scored, so this is where we will stay.
Exactly. And Teddy was like, I don't want you in.
Yeah, exactly.
He was the best.
He was great.
If you left and we turned around, maybe it was you.
Yeah.
Because, we say that, because when Greeny's here, he always believes as a fan he actually contributes to the game. And Teddy was just validating all of that.
But I mean, there are way more, and every time I kind of rip Greeny about that, but the vast majority all do this. So that's why I thought that story rang true with so many people who are superstitious like that. And I thought it was great. I thought the kid who was there with his dad was getting texts of other people, his friends telling him, leave the game, you're the reason they're losing.
Right. Yeah.
And then he left the game, and then they're like, why'd you leave the game?
And they're like, because you told me to. I mean, and it's working, so I can't please you either way.
I thought it was really good.
So anyway, that story is on ESPN.com. Jeff Darlington. I tweeted it out a couple of days ago. It's very good.
Oh, I'll retweet it. That's
Thank
what
you.
I do.
We're glad we're here with you, Mike and Mike, technically on ESPN Radio and ESPN2, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests appear on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And as you are prone to do, tweet us through the day at the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. We will get you going. Lots to get to, as we said, in football, on the field, off the field, and a couple of other stories as well. And we'll cover it all, including the bread truck, Charles Barkley being a little grumpy, which we like. But first, Mike, as we like to do when I'm here, let's start with
Off the Top.
Yeah, love Off the Top. The Indians love Off the Top, too, because all they do is win. The Windians won again on Thursday, giving them 27 wins in 28 games.
Okay, follow me here.
I'm with you.
Because I love these.
Are we going down the rabbit hole?
We're going down the old-time rabbit hole
like
here.
It.
Okay? So they won, as you mentioned, 27 out of 28. The only other teams in Major League history to win 27 and 28 games in the season are the 1916 New York Giants, who hold the record for 26 straight wins.
Even though there was a tie in there somewhere.
Yeah, and they played it over and they won, and boy, that was a mess. And the 1884 Providence Grays. Okay, let me tell you a little bit about that 1884 Providence Grays.
Because you played for them, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, no, but Bob Picosi covered them. I'm sorry, Bob. I do that all the time, and I apologize.
Well, Buster, I think, was also there.
Well, there you go. 1884 Providence Grays. That Grays team had a 28-1 stretch. During that stretch, now, understand what I'm saying. I'm not saying this incorrectly because it seems so unbelievable in watching today's game. During that 28-1 stretch, Hall of Fame pitcher, and it also says internet legend.
Old Ross Hayburn?
Old Hoss Radburn.
Sure.
Tossed during the 28-1 win streak. He threw 27 complete games. I'm not saying that incorrectly. So 28-1 in 29 games, he threw 27 complete games. For comparison's sake, Radburn started as many games during that stretch than Corey Kluber has started over the entire season. Let me add to a stat on
There's
that.
another level?
Another stat. That year, Old Hoss Radburn, and I just love the names, he faced 2,672 batters. Okay?
Yeah.
The most any pitcher has faced this year is 841 batters.
Wow.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
That is a little insane. By the way, I wonder how many people out there were thinking, I'd really like to catch up on my Providence Grays and the Old Hoss Radburn stats this morning. I think that there's a large portion of people. By the way, I'd like to add to this because I'm so amazed by your statistical prowess. Did you know that Radburn threw primarily underhand?
He did.
His pitch mix included a rising fastball, screwball, sinker, slow curve, and a dry spitter. It moved like a spitball. # no saliva.
What's a dry spitter?
Yeah, exactly. You know what a dry spitter is? A pitch. What? Seriously, Hembo, by the way, our great researcher here, Paul Hembekitis, and I use great, because I don't really know why. But what is it? What is a dry spitter?
A dry spitter was a ball without the saliva that moved like a spitter did. It would be now known as a forkball or a splitter.
Did we know at that point in 1884 what a spitball actually moved like?
Oh, sure. It was common. It was not yet outlawed.
Common knowledge.
Is this why he was able to throw so many complete games? Because he threw underhand?
Like softball, same deal.
You know what? The stat doesn't seem so good anymore.
No, it doesn't. By the way, it was common knowledge in the 1800s. Yeah, so was having to line up people to douse a fire with 800 buckets. I mean, what are we talking? Oh, it's common knowledge.
Man, that was a fun one.
That's it. We're going to do a segment on the new show called 1800s Common Knowledge.
We are.
Everything you needed to know.
Coming up at the end of November.
Common knowledge in the 1800s.
Mark your calendars.
Woo, that'll get them.
Just think about this, gang. That was only the first one of Off the Top.
Yeah, what else can we possibly do? I don't know, but let's continue.
Off the Top.
Okay, here we go. Saturday's college football slate's going to feature several underdogs looking to make statements against highly ranked opponents, including Vanderbilt taking on Alabama.
Yeah. Some of the other ones. TCU is a 13-point dog to Oklahoma State. So we'll see what Gary Patterson can do with that defense against Mason Rudolph. Iowa is a 13-point dog to Penn State. And Vanderbilt, 18.5-point dog to Alabama. But Vandy has Kyle Shermer, who enters the game with a 91 total QBR, the best in the SEC. So why do I mention that? Well, this is the sixth time that a quarterback enters the Alabama game with the best total QBR in the SEC since Nick Saban's first season in 2007. Those quarterbacks have a combined 4-1 record, winning record. Going back to 2008, Tim Tebow went into that game, the best QBR in the SEC. He won. 2010, Cam Newton. 2012, Johnny Manziel. 2015, Chad Kelly from Ole Miss. And the next year, the only loss was Chad Kelly again. He lost that game. I'm going to say it's just going to be another loss.
You think so?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Well, it's interesting because when James Franklin was there at Vanderbilt, they became relevant. They were a story, they were common knowledge for the first time since the 1800s, really, Vanderbilt football
There you
was.
go, yes.
When James Franklin was there. See, we're pulling it all together.
We are.
It's all about
together.
common knowledge
That's
from
exactly
the 1800s.
You know what? That's a thread.
Because Paul Hembekitis really, even though he's 24, is an old soul from the 1800s.
He really is. As a matter of fact,
Look
he was
at him.
alive then.
Tell me that face. Put it back up on for the viewers on TV. That is an 1800 face.
He was alive then. He's actually a reincarnation.
He's actually Three Fingers Mordecai Brown.
Well, there you go.
I think that's who he is.
Well.
I think that's exactly who he is.
Oh, Mordecai.
By the way, old baseball nicknames are the best.
The best.
Right?
That's why we do this all the time. With
High Trainer.
All the time.
Can't beat it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've kicked off baseball and college football on.
Off the Top.
Let's move on to the NFL.
Shall we?
The Rams and the 49ers. Everybody, as you were saying, everybody's ready to lay into another Thursday night game, and lo and behold, we had an actual entertaining game.
So here you go. Here's what happened last night.
Tell
For
me
those
about
that
it.
didn't watch it, and quite honestly, not many 49er fans were in the
A
stadium.
lot of empty
watching it.
seats.
There was 80 combined points, but the game was decided by 2 points. There was an interception on the first play of the game, muffed punt, fumble on a kickoff return, 300-yard passer, 100-yard rusher, 300-yard receivers. Two quarterbacks combined to complete 5 of 7 passes thrown 20 yards down the field. There were 2 touchdowns scored on 4th down. There was an onside kick recovery, and there was a game-tying 2-point conversion.
Yeah.
A lot went on last night. I thought it was a pretty good game, and we do need to talk about the Rams and,
Yes.
the defense we know about, but what Jared Goff is doing on the offensive side.
Absolutely, and we'll get into that on the other side of
Off the top.
as we continue with this one other nugget. Jared Goff, 3 touchdown passes, and Todd Gurley, 149 scrimmage yards, led the way for the Rams. And Gurley, the first player since Megatron to have 6 touchdowns in the first 3 games of the season.
And he's starting to look like the Gurley. I took him a lot. As a matter of fact, we had that draft last year when Bobby Flay took David Johnson #1, and we all laughed. Green and I picked Todd Gurley, and he wasn't anything on really on the fantasy last year. But, boy, this year he's running the ball well, and 13 catches, I believe it's 13 he has, out of the backfield in 3 games. That's what needed to happen with Gurley. He needed to become that kind of back. So he gets 100 yards last night, and then a couple of additions. Robert Woods, Sammy Watkins go over 100 yards, and Jared Goff is throwing a nice football out there as well.
Listen, it's a remarkable transition from year 1 to year 2 for Jared Goff, and that was
Off the top.
as we are off and rolling on a Football Friday here on Mike and Mike. By the way, Mike and Mike is presented by Progressive Insurance. More independent agents sell Progressive Insurance than any other brand. Find an agent at Progressive.com. Now that's Progressive. And speaking of Progressive and progressing, that's the thing I think is something that needs to be discussed when we look at what the Rams are doing. We always get enamored, and rightfully so, with players who come out of college and have these amazing highlight reels and can do all these amazing things. And then we see so many of them, Mike, when they get into the NFL, and all of the sudden they struggle a little bit. And you take a look at a guy like Jared Goff, who last year, he was the 4th or 5th rookie quarterback to start last year. I mean, he had Kessler and Hogan for the Browns, both getting in there and making starts. You had Dak Prescott get in there and make a start. You had Trevon Boykin actually get some playing time in Seattle before you had Jared Goff and Carson Wentz as well. All those quarterbacks, he was the last one to go, and he struggled mightily last year.
He was inactive for the first game, not even in pass.
As the number 1 overall pick for several of those games, if I'm not mistaken. And then he comes back this year, and all of a sudden, they're putting up all kinds of points. At one point last night, in 2.5 quarters, Jared Goff had scored in 2.5 games 90 points. In his first 7 starts last year, he had scored 85. So we're seeing a major transition. And the point being, coaching matters in football. The roster hasn't changed that much for the Rams. Yes, they got Sammy Watkins and Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp they drafted, but essentially most of that offense has been the same.
They redone the offensive line a little, which they needed to do.
Absolutely, but Saffold was still there, and Haverstein's been there for a while. The bottom line is the biggest difference is that you've got a quarterback who now has a coach in Sean McVay who is doing to Jared Goff almost essentially what he was able to do for Kirk Cousins in Washington.
If you go back and look at the former staff, and listen, Jeff Fisher, who I like, he was one of my D coordinator when I was in Philly, but, it's not all just Jeff. Jeff is a defensive coach. You have offensive.
Right.
That's the one thing you got to make sure you do is have the offensive-minded people on the staff. And you go back to when they took Sam Bradford #1 and start ticking off the quarterbacks they had until, that staff was gone. They didn't do anything with him, right?
Correct.
I mean, they and that was the big thing. What are you doing with this quarterback to help him along? And that's another thing. We sit here and we talk about, oh, my gosh, these quarterbacks are not ready for the NFL with the style they're playing in college. It's going to take time. And then we get shocked when they're not playing well as rookies.
Correct.
It's like, well, wait a minute. He's a top pick. Why isn't he playing well? Why isn't he dressed for the game? And it's like, as I said, you don't draft them for their rookie year, but every now and then, what throws it off? A Dak Prescott comes out of nowhere and has a great year, and you're like, well, wait a minute. Every rookie should be doing this.
Those are the exceptions, not the rule.
It's exactly right. It takes time. How many people were talking at the beginning of the season? Man, if they could trade Jared Goff, you think they should do that now? That could help them get a stockpile of things for a new coach. And it blows my mind that we say, boy, the quarterbacks aren't ready because of the college scheme, and then we rip them when they don't perform well.
Right.
In the beginning, there's a growing process to this thing, and I'll tell you what, he has jumped leaps and bounds, and I'm sure a lot of it is year 1 and 2, but there's no doubt a lot of it is coaching as well.
Look, Sean McVay is an offensive guru. I mean, the interesting things in that game last night were the ages of the two head coaches, 31 for McVay, 37 for Kyle Shanahan. It was the third youngest coaching matchup in the Super Bowl era, but the other two were actually the same two coaches. Yeah. So technically, they were the seconds, just the other two guys played twice.
1992 was Bill Cowher and Dave Shula.
Dave Shula, yeah. So anyway, the idea that you hear all these times, it's not the X's and O's, it's the Willies and Joes. It's almost the opposite in the NFL. Like you can have, if you're going to win in college, you need the best athletes. You need to recruit the best athletes. You know what everybody has in the NFL? The best athletes.
Yep.
So it's, can you put them in situations? And you find coaches that'll do this. Bill Parcells was notorious at this. He wanted to run the ball and be an offensive, sort of a ground and pound kind of guy. That was his MO. That's his DNA. But then when he got to New England and he had Drew Bledsoe, he's like, we can't do that, so we're going to do this instead. And he adapted his coaching ability to what his players could do. That's how guys like Dion Lewis can leave Cleveland and come be a star for the New England Patriots. Taylor Gabriel the same way. Cleveland didn't want him. They found a way to use him in Atlanta when Kyle Shanahan was there, and obviously Dan Quinn is there now, and they're relying on their offensive staff to find ways to use him. So it's about coaching in the NFL more than anything else. I know a lot of times players don't want to hear that,
right?
But it really is about coaching in the NFL.
Completely agree. And to look what Jared Goff did last night, only 6 incompletions, 22 of 28, 292, 3 touchdowns, and probably more importantly, no interceptions. He wasn't sacked at all. And, he's not the running quarterback out there. He can certainly move some. But so we talked about some of the revamping of the offensive line a little bit and how that's helped. And you have Gurley running the ball, so give that O-line credit for run blocking as well. And I know a lot of people are going to say, well, look who they played. They put up over 40 points twice, but it's the Colts. They did have a nice win over the Giants, 27-20. And then put up another 40 points here. So you start to look at them. They're at Dallas next week, and then they're home to Seattle. That's going to be everyone's going to say, okay, that division, that's Seattle's, but they haven't looked very good. Well, in a couple of weeks, they play Seattle in L.A. So we'll see where that one goes. And while the Rams won this one, and even though the 49ers scored 39 points, why it's harder for me, I look at them and you look at development of some players. The biggest difference to me is the fact that the Rams, Trey, have their quarterback.
Yeah.
It's Jared Goff.
Yeah.
And for the 49ers, while Brian Hoyer, last night he was sacked 4 times, once on the last play to end the game, 23 of 37. He did throw for 332 and a couple of touchdowns. He's not the quarterback of that future.
No.
The next time the 49ers re-enter the middle to upper echelon of the league, it's going to be a different quarterback. So that's why it's got to be a little tougher, I would imagine, for 49er fans to say, what do we have here? Okay, we have Solomon Thomas on defense and Reuben Foster and, where other guys we're picking up and young players and how they're going to fit in, but we don't have our quarterback yet. So they're kind of biding their time until between, John Lynch, the GM, and Kyle Shanahan, whose combined age is like 50.
I think I have pants older than them.
Get that quarterback. So that's why I think right now you hold off on the 49ers and you say, okay, Rams, young pieces,
right,
acquired pieces, certainly going in the right direction.
Well, look, and there's little things. We can all see the stats, and we can all see the yards and the touchdowns and all those little kinds of things that every fan can see. But there are always things inside the game that coaches look for. You always say, and Trent Dilfer was great about this, quarterbacks are paid really to do 3 things: win on third down, win in the red zone, and win in the 2-minute situation, either at the end of the half or at the end of the game. And another situation that was a little thing last night that most fans probably didn't notice, but it goes a long way when they look at the game film, and coaches will pick up on this. Goff didn't take a sack on third down Thursday. He had taken 15 sacks on third down, most in the NFL, since his debut in Week 11 of last season. So when he's not taking sacks on third down, that tells you he's not putting his team in a negative situation, and he's either going to throw the ball away and they're going to live to fight another day, or he's going to make the first down. So you don't want to get into a negative situation on third down, and he avoided that, and that's one of the things that his head coach, Sean McVay, was very happy of after the game.
I thought Jared managed the game extremely well, distributed to his playmakers, gave guys a chance down the field. You know, you look at Sammy and Robert come away with over 100 apiece. And really, you know, those are the kind of things we expect from him. You know, the play that I thought was one of the things that just shows you that Jared is mentally tough, doesn't blink in crunch time, is the 3rd and 1. We're on the goal line, and he ends up having kind of a run-pass option there, throws it to Sammy on a strike, and we end up punching it in right there. And those two made the play. And really, you know, Jared has taken steps in the right direction, and we'll continue to expect the same from him. But very, very proud of Jared for what he did tonight and helped his team accomplish a win.
And by the way, this was the first time that Goff had played basically in his home area.
Right.
I mean, he's from San Rafael, which is north in Marin County of San Francisco. And, of course, Levi Stadium is now about 60 miles south in Santa Clara. As we all know from the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, you can't really call it a San Francisco stadium, but it was in the area, so it meant a lot for him to be there, and that's why he played great in front of a lot. I think he had 40 or 50 people in the stands.
Right.
And Goff is our player with style, and it's brought to you by JCPenney. Guys, hurry in for the men's wardrobe sale and save 50% on selected suit, separates, sport coats, dress pants, and more. That's getting your pennies worth at JCPenney. So that was the good news going forward with Jared Goff. The interesting thing is now, can they sustain it? Because the Rams were 2-1 at this point last year.
Right.
And
they were.
All of a sudden.
Yeah. But they certainly look better.
They look like a different team.
Yeah, they do.
But if you're the Niners, and here's the really sad part for San Francisco 49ers fans, they have 3 wins in their last 23 games.
Yeah.
All 3 of them?
The Rams.
Against the Rams.
0-19 against everybody else.
At this point, if you're San Francisco, you have to be thinking, if we can't beat
that was
the
the
Rams,
team we normally beat.
That was the one, baby.
Yeah.
That was the one. Where do you – I mean, let's look at their schedule here. You know, look, I believe Kyle Shanahan is doing some good things with that team, but there's a reason he got a 6-year contract.
It's exactly right. It's exactly they need time to develop, and one of the first things they're going to have to do is eventually get their quarterback, who they are going to really continue to build around.
All right, so after they get Arizona next in Arizona off a short week coming off Monday Night Football. Then they got Indianapolis. They go to Indianapolis. Maybe they get a win there. Washington, Dallas, Philadelphia, Arizona, New York, Seattle, Chicago. Maybe Chicago. I mean, I don't want to dampen the hopes of everybody in San Francisco.
No, I mean, the next 2 games, Arizona's no great shakes right now, and then they're at Indy, which is no great shakes.
Right.
So I think in the next couple of games, they could actually, do a little bit as well. We'll see.
Right, we'll see what happens there. So that was the positive news for football, if you will, Thursday night with what happened. We had an entertaining game, and we look like we're seeing the maturation of Jared Goff, and all that's good. And, of course, there was another story that came out in football and involved Aaron Hernandez, the former tight end of the New England Patriots, and some really devastating news there. And we'll get to that, and we'll discuss that next. Trey Wingo, Mike Golic here with you this morning. We're glad you're with us. We're presented by Progressive, and if you want to get in touch with us, all guests appear on the Shell Pennzoil Performance line, and also you can tweet us at the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. And some tweets already coming in from what we were talking about the first segment, and the improvement in Jared Goff's game, and how quickly things have turned around. And Gary Jackson put in, Jeff Fisher not looking good. He's definitely not a QB whisperer. No, he wasn't. He's a defensive guy.
I mean, let's understand that. Listen, it all falls on the head coach because they're the head coach, right? So it eventually it is on him, and Jeff Fisher knows that. But when we sit there and talk about these whisperers, the Adam Gases, the Dirk Cutters, the Ben McAdoo's, what are they? They're offensive coaches. Jeff Fisher was a defensive coach, so the main thing where some of the failure for him as a head coach was the staff he hired on offense.
Correct.
Jeff Fisher is not going to be the quarterback whisperer. That's what you do when you have one side of the ball. Your coach is an offensive-minded coach or a defensive-minded coach. Some of the most important hires you make are who you hire for the other side of the ball that you're going to let run it.
Yeah.
And the development of the quarterback for the Rams in St. Louis was not good at all. So you'd have to look at Jeff Fisher because he's the head coach, but then who he brought in to coach these guys, and they certainly were not quarterback whisperers.
Absolutely. If you want to have a fairer assessment of Jeff Fisher, and then we'll move on to other things, look at all the defensive players he's brought in there. Aaron Donald, Michael Brockers, Alec Ogletree. Before he left, Janoris Jenkins.
Right.
They've now got Barron, who's in there now playing sort of like a linebacker spot.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
In the safety position. So he brought in a lot of the really good defensive talent.
From his side of the ball, yeah.
Unfortunately for him, they could never balance out with the offensive side of the ball. And look, as we all know, all the rules right now in the NFL are really geared towards scoring, even though scoring is down this year.
Right.
Which means we go through these cycles in the NFL. I think defenses are figuring out how to slow down the high-flying, high-scoring offenses. This just in, nobody likes pressure up the middle.
No, they do not.
Fletcher Cox, Ndamukong Suh, Aaron Donald.
Yeah.
Who else? There's a bunch of them out there. These great defensive interior linemen that can just blow up an entire offense.
Which is how the game ended last night on a 4th and 20 when San Fran just did a nice job recovering the onside kick, a great onside kick.
Gerald McCoy, another one.
Yeah, right. And so all they need is get in field goal range, a really questionable offensive pass interference penalty against the 49ers, no doubt about that. And then the sack by Aaron Donald, as you mentioned, right up the gut, that ended the game.
Yeah, Linval Joseph, Damon Harrison, all these guys are difference makers inside. So that's something a lot of people are talking about. But, Mike, there is another story in football that a lot of people in and outside of football are going to be talking about, and that's the story that former Patriots tight end Aaron Hernandez, who, of course, killed himself early this year as he was in jail, having been convicted for a murder of a couple of years ago, and then acquitted of a double murder, and in a weird technical loop in Massachusetts because he could never appeal.
Right.
He never got around to hear his appeal. That first conviction was vacated. But came to find out that Aaron Hernandez, I believe at the age of 23, had advanced stages of CTE, chronic traumatic encephalopathy, which has been something that football has been dealing with for a long time. And now, on behalf of his daughter, his attorneys are suing the NFL and the New England Patriots.
You know, certainly the Aaron Hernandez story has been one of a very sad and also a very not a lot of people feeling bad for the guy for the road he went down, a lot, his choice in making a lot of these decisions. So I don't think there was a lot of, you feel bad for certainly family members when you lose somebody. And then this, and that was my fear. When I saw Damian Woody tweet about this saying, there's layers to this. And I said, I agree. I said, but unfortunately people are going to read the headline and that's going to be their conclusion that, again, if you put on shoulder pads, you're going to end up with CTE. And there is just so many, there are layers to this. I mean, he played 3 years at Florida and 3 years in the NFL and certainly high school and before that. And now he's suing the NFL and suing the New England Patriots.
Oh, that's where the money is.
Let's
be honest.
Right.
And they're doing that because they think that that's where they might be able to get the most money.
And what have we heard about? And this is. I don't want to go too far of saying why, of defending why we just don't say CTE, that caused everything, because that's what people want to do. Well, you get the CTE and it caused everything. It caused him to be the person he was. I mean, and that's where I start to say, well, did it? Each case is individual, right? I mean, we all know where his path started to go when his father passed away.
It was in high school.
It was in high school that he started going down the road of the gangs and,
drugs.
And drugs, and many people brought that up. And they were asking me, is there been a study on drugs, whether it's illegal drugs or opioids, and the effect on this? And I said, listen, I'm not the one. This is where I said I've read articles on both sides of this, and we're just tapping into CTE in general, let alone whether alcohol, whether recreational drugs, whether opioids, whether steroids have an effect on all that as well. So we know the history a bit of Aaron Hernandez. So that's where I just caution people to make the jump to say, oh, well, he had CTE, so that's why he did everything. I mean, if memory serves, you correct me if I'm wrong, it seemed somewhat calculated of his suicide. Am I not mistaken, of the money that would be involved in that for the family?
Yes, there were some legal ramifications there that he believed that there would be some money left over to provide for his family this way. Yeah.
So I guess that's all I would caution is I agree with Damian. There are layers to this. And to do the other side, listen, I understand there is no doubt repetitive head trauma or hitting your head over and over and over again is going to it can't be great for you, and we're still figuring out the things where it is bad for you, and that's why from football, from the youth level to the NFL, is starting to take steps. It's never going to be totally free of getting hit in the head. I completely understand that. But I guess all I ask is let's just keep looking at both sides. I am more than willing, as I tweeted out, I'm reading research from both sides of this thing. Those, that are saying it is causing it, this is the reason players are acting the way they're acting, to others saying, whoa, let's hold off on that until we have even more information of what other elements may be involved in this.
Yeah, look, this is not a thing that you can just encapsulate as, well, let's just put it in this box.
Right.
You can't do that. Here's what we can say. CTE is going to be a problem going forward for the NFL. And the fact that this guy in particular, because of the things he did in his life away from football,
right,
people are going to look at that, and they're going to, whether it's right or wrong, make a connection. Well, this did this.
Right.
In other words, it must have been the CTE that caused him to, at the time of the conviction, legally be convicted of killing a guy, even though, again, because of Massachusetts law, that was vacated. I don't think you can make that jump. I don't think you can say, well, it was because there are 4 stages of CTE, and apparently he was found to have a stage 3.
Right.
So obviously a fairly severe case of chronic traumatic encephalopathy. So you cannot say with any certainty, well, because of this happened. That I don't think we can say.
Yeah.
You can say that this is a problem and it needs to be looked at more, and the idea that there's a direct correlation between the two, I think, is going to be a very difficult thing, not only to speak of in general terms, but also in terms of this lawsuit going forward. Why are they only choosing to sue the NFL?
Right.
I mean, he played as many years at Florida, as you said,
he did in the NFL.
As he did in the NFL.
Yeah.
Why? Where is that line? Where did this begin? And I think the bottom line is this is going to be a problem PR-wise for the NFL, because people are going to see Aaron Hernandez, we know what happened with him. CTE, we know that's a problem. We've seen some other bad behavior because of CTE, and a lot of people are going to lump that together. This is a very nuanced discussion. These are very nuanced things. These are not things you can make broad-basing, sweeping statements over, and I would just say let's make sure we treat this subject carefully, diligently, and with the respect and care that it deserves.
Yeah, and I think, and I want to get into, because there were a couple of tweets of people jumping on doctors in all this, in their agendas, and I jumped right in. I want to defend doctors on both sides,
correct,
of this, because I think their hearts and research is in the right place of what they're trying to find out. So we can get into that.
Look, there's a lot more to get into this, and we will get into this throughout the day here on Mike and Mike, and we'll get into it today on NFL Live as well, and it'll be on SportsCenter as well, I'm sure. We'll have much more on this complicated Aaron Hernandez story, and it is complicated.
Yes.
Let's not pretend like it isn't. It is extremely complicated. Plus, we'll have a $67 million to 1 shot in the world of sports that went down twice, believe it or not. We roll on Mike and Mike, or Mike and Trey and Mike, Golic and Wingo.
Golic and Wingo.
1127.
Go with that.
All of that, just to let you know, that's Straight Talk. It's time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. And Mike, this is the Straight Talk we'll be talking a lot about today, which is the story that Aaron Hernandez was found to have stage 3 CTE, and what that means going forward, not only in his particular case, but how we deal with this in terms of the NFL because of the horrible things that Aaron Hernandez committed away from the field, which again, we have to say from a legal perspective now was vacated because he wasn't able to appeal that sentence. But, he was convicted of that crime and then of killing Odin Lloyd. And then because of the loophole in Massachusetts state law, because he didn't get to fully get that appeal, that conviction is vacated. But he did die in prison by suicide. And obviously, this is a very troubling matter for a lot of people on a lot of levels, including a guy that works for us now that used to be his teammate, our own Teddy Bruschi.
The story of Aaron Hernandez is tragic, and this is another chapter. I mean, he was at one time the best player on the New England Patriots, in my opinion. That wasn't named Tom Brady. He was that skilled. But hearing the CTE results, all of us former players are still curious to all of it, because me as a former player, I don't know what to believe. I don't know what to think, but all I know is I wonder. I wonder how much I have. And I wonder, what am I going to be like in 5 or 10 years? But I'm telling you what, a lot of us former NFL players, we signed up for a violent sport. And now, after the fact, we're learning of some of the things that are the consequences of it. Unfortunately for Aaron Hernandez, he had a severe case. And for a lot of former players, we will wonder how severe is our case.
Well, I think that's the thing, right? I mean, look, I think people at this point are understanding that, yes, that is something that may happen to you if you play football. But then you see so many people like Teddy, like Herm, like yourself, Mike, who played, 10 years?
Yeah, 9 years.
And I think Teddy played double digits, as did Herm. And, a former teammate of ours, Mark Schlereth, who used to tell me all the time, he blacked out once a game. and then we see that they're all functioning at a very high level.
Right.
And that's the hard part to understand here. When does this meet that?
Right.
And if there's a straight line, why isn't it so that everybody has the same situation?
And that's where it comes down to our doctors and the research, because, Teddy's right. As we keep
Do you wonder?
Well, I mean, I'd be a fool not to wonder. Yeah. I mean, knowing as more information comes out, as we're learning more. But I also, while it was for a very short time, I took steroids after coming back from my shoulder injury. Opioids, I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, by the handfuls, took them while I was playing. So I wonder about all of that effect. But as Teddy played, you sign up for a violent game, and it was my choice. If I needed to take a pill to play the game, I did. If I needed to take a shot to play the game, I did. I did that of my own volition, and I would imagine, even if I found out, maybe, I don't know about the head, but you're not doing well for your body when you're doing that, but you do it. So it's a choice. But what happens is then you start to find out more and more information about things. So to sit there and say anybody who played wouldn't wonder a little bit, absolutely you wonder. But far higher percentage of players I know that I played with and against are fine now than not. So a high percentage. So where I go to next is what I continue to do in talking on Twitter with people is I look at both sides. And then I get a couple of tweets. They say, well, it's a shame when the doctors have an agenda. And I don't want to go down that road at all. I want to give both sides, if you want to say sides of this, their due. I don't think doctors have an agenda that said, what's going to serve me well?
Well, you would hope so. Now, there's always the outliers where that does happen.
But
yes.
That's not where I'm going, whether it's the doctors that, in Boston are doing their research and coming out and saying, with their research and their findings, and then there are others, including one of the latest ones I read of the doctor who was in the brain study. That's his job. He coaches his 10 or 11-year-old kid in tackle football. He goes through all that and talks why he doesn't believe it's as bad as where we are now, or we don't have the all the research that we need yet, and we're still finding it. I believe in both sides of the doctors, whether it's ones that are saying don't play football before you're 12 years old, or those that say
was a recent study,
or those that say, hey, that's not true. These are doctors that are doing their research. This isn't the first or last time we've disagreed on research until we get to something common at some point.
Yeah, and look, and that will continue. And again, that was Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. And we will continue to talk about this throughout the day. We've got Vince Wilfork coming up a little later on, who was also a teammate of Aaron Hernandez. There's a lot to talk about with Big Vince, but that'll be part of it. We'll also have Herm Edwards coming on the show later on today. And obviously Herm is doing as great as anybody possibly can. Lots to get into, including, again, that 67 million to 1 shot in the world of sports that went in twice. That's all ahead. Stay with us.
First time skydiving? Sure is. Okay, you just open the door like this and you jump. Oh, wait. Should we be like in tandem? Tandem? That's a great idea. Are you a certified instructor? No, but I love parachutes and I love people. Here we go.
You wouldn't take chances with an uncertified skydiving instructor. Don't do it with your finances. Find a certified financial planner professional today at letsmakeaplan.org. CFP. Work with the highest standard.
Certified financial planner professionals are certified to provide comprehensive financial planning that can address just about any facet of one's financial life, including retirement, estate planning, taxes, education, and more. For more info, go to letsmakeaplan.org to find a CFP professional for you.
Hour number 2. Glad you're here with us, Trey Wingo, Mike Golic, as we continue to plow through on a Friday. Everybody get ready for a big weekend.
Big weekend.
Big weekend.
Trying to figure out ways to give away bobbleheads since it's what we've been doing.
Yes, I've been noticing.
Again,
I'll just sit here and do this.
Green and I show ends November 17th, and Trey and myself and my son, Mike, we start up November 27th. We've been giving away bobbleheads in different ways and keep trying to figure out different ways to give out bobbleheads. Do you see somebody started a Twitter handle?
Mike bobblehead.
It's called Flying Bobblehead. Okay. And they just keep tweeting. Now, Flying Bobblehead, I'm going to tell you this right now. You're going overboard. Okay.
Oh, he created the account just to get the bobblehead.
He's trying to. There's one thing to do it, but I believe he's tweeted a little under 4,000 times.
And how long? How long is this account being
In about
created?
2 minutes.
That's a problem.
Okay, so he's trying a little too. I get it because we're getting a lot of people either tweeting it. I got letters at my house of people that want bobbleheads and such. And
well, how'd they get your address?
I don't know.
We'll just give it.
Are you giving it out?
No,
Are you giving my address out?
As far as you know, I would never
Come
do
on,
that.
Ray.
Wow. So they are all right. So we'll be doing that later on in the show.
Yeah, we're figuring out different ways to give out the bobblehead.
By the way, if you ever do what I just did, don't do that because it really hurts your head.
When you bobbled your head.
I bobbled my head.
There you go.
I did. I was a living embodiment of a bobblehead.
It's not good when you're living, is it?
Some would say that my career would be an entire living embodiment of a bobblehead. But we're glad you're with us. We're presented by Progressive Insurance on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. And yes, all phone guests do appear on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And we've got a lot to get into, including a lot of reactions from what we were talking about last hour, Mike, with the news about Aaron Hernandez discovered to have stage 3 CTE. A lot of people are weighing in on that. Some people think, Cody, you have to factor in events that potentially happened to Hernandez while in prison or on street fights, fist fights, etc. Look, again, we just want to make sure that people aren't drawing a straight line from, oh, yes, he had CTE, which is explaining why he did all the things that he did. I'm not sure you can say that.
No, I completely agree, but you do have people that feel this way, and I love the handle, by the way. Steel of Nerds.
Okay. Yeah.
But he does say, and this is what some people say about myself and other former players. I feel like we don't have enough research really means we can't handle the truth.
No, I disagree with that.
I disagree as well. Now, listen, what we are getting, and just like we have in life, from everybody smoked to we found out smoking can be bad for you. I never wore a seatbelt when I was a kid growing up in a car, and then we learned what wearing a seatbelt can do. A helmet, when you're riding a bike. We learn as we go along things that are better for you or the cause of things if you don't do them, and that's what we're learning now. We're learning more and more. I mean, we have to understand when the movie about concussion and the doctor involved in that, this was when he made it in 2002? Mm-hmm. I mean, in the medical world, at least, again, I live to listen to the doctors about this. They are the ones that say that's like an instant. I mean, there needs to be so much more done and scratching the surface on all the other things involved that go into players and what they go through and other things, as we talked about with drugs, whether they're legal, illegal, steroids, alcohol, family history as well, that there's a lot more that goes into it. So while for the tweeter, do we worry, like Teddy Bruschi said, you worry? So, yeah, I mean, as you find out more and more, you think, okay, I took a lot, I hit people a lot and I got hit a lot. That's the nature of the game. And as I said, that's why I think they're doing steps in the right direction about cutting down practice time. I do think it's getting, I brought up the fact after week 1, the Houston Texans, 5 players that can diagnose concussions, right? Mm-hmm. Symptoms of concussion.
Right, almost all the tight ends on the team.
And none of them played that Thursday. I said 8-10 years ago they probably all would have played.
Correct.
So we've come away where we're listening to the research, we're listening to what's going on, and we're making changes along the way. But to me, it is still too soon to do what Trey said people do out there. They have this, and this is why. Yeah, look, it's just, I think it is still too early to do that, though we are finding out more and more info.
Absolutely. And look, I don't think anyone's shying away from the idea that, yes, CTE is a real what's the word I'm looking at? It's a real thing that can happen from playing football. And I don't think that's much debated.
No, agreed.
No, we're not steering away from that. I think what we're saying with this case is you cannot, at this point, draw a straight line from the fact that Aaron Hernandez had stage 3 to explain some of the actions that he decided to do in his life. And that we're a long way from there, but it's certainly not a good look for the NFL. It's certainly not a good look for football, and something that they're going to have to deal with going forward. I mean, and we'll ask when Vince Wilfork is here. We'll talk to him about a lot of things. Yeah. But that's one of the things we're going to talk to him.
Yeah, it is. It is.
And we'll continue to have this discussion all day long.
We will, and I'll continue to to read doctors' research and talk to doctors and see where this thing ends up. But the one thing I do like is it's not like football is just poo-pooing everybody's research. They're doing things about it. From less practice all the way down to the youth level up to trying to get get better equipment. I know this new helmet that may be coming out that could be a little more softer to absorb, and things that are going on all the way down to technique of learning to not use your head in the game anymore. So
I think the CFL has done away with padded practices.
They have, which I think is a little too far. I mean, I think there's a line that you have to be careful of crossing, of still it being the sport and preparing for. But they felt the need to do that. They did it. So that's their right to do.
Look, this is not going away, and it's not going to be something that we're not going to shy away from talking about it. So, but there are other things to get to as well, including sort of the exact opposite of what we've been talking about all day. How about this story of this kid in Pennsylvania high school up in Parkland High?
Parkland High golfer. This is unbelievable.
And as a golfer, I don't like this kid. I'm telling you right now.
You don't like him at all?
No, I don't like him at all. I don't like him one bit.
He did something that had the odds of 67 million to 1 in a round of golf, and not even a round, in 9 holes of a practice round of golf. He had 2 hole-in-ones.
I don't like Ben.
Have you ever had a hole-in-one?
No, and that's why I don't like him.
He's been golfing for all of 5 years. He's 17 years old. The first one was,
good for you, Ben.
Yeah, 104.
I'm so happy for you.
104-yard second hole, hit a gap wedge. Yeah. Watched the ball spin close without seeing it fall. He didn't see it. And then on the 6th hole, so the second hole and then the 6th hole, he hit a 9 iron on a 140-yard hole. He said it bounced once and disappeared.
That's just crazy.
2 hole-in-ones, 67 million to 1 odds.
Look, okay, fine.
That.
I'm happy for him, okay? I'm happy for Ben that he did this. It's wonderful. It just makes me feel even worse about myself.
What's the closest you ever got to a hole-in-one?
I like a foot. No, actually, 2 years ago in Hawaii, I was playing at Kikui'ula. By the way, wonderful place. Lovely people. And I was playing with the pro out there, and which, by the way, would have been the greatest thing in the world because I hit it, and Brian goes, "Oh, that's in the hole." And I'm like, "Don't even say that." It bounced once, bounced in the cup, bounced out.
Oh, it did,
and rolled a foot away.
Oh, see, I would have counted that.
No, you can't count it.
I mean, did it hit in the cup?
It hit in, but it bounced out. It has to stay in the cup.
Did it go in the hole?
It has to stay in the cup.
In?
Not all the way down. The stick was in. It hit between the stick and the edge of the cup, and then bounced past the stick.
No, I would have counted for me.
No, and here's the worst part.
Yeah.
I missed the putt.
You didn't.
I missed the putt.
It was almost a gimme.
It was the worst par I've ever made in my life.
Wow.
It almost was the greatest moment in my life, and it became the worst par ever.
Have you ever seen a hole-in-one?
Oh, yeah. I've playing partners that have hit.
Yeah, I did it too.
And I'm like, oh, good for you.
Yeah,
so happy for you.
At Hootie the Blowfish, Monday after the Masters, we golfed with pros, and it was our pro one year that hit a hole-in-one. I know.
Get that guy.
I was on one of Jaworski's courses when I was playing in Philadelphia. I was about 2 feet away. I hit, it was a par, obviously it was a par 3, and I hit a horrific shot. I hit it thin, and it was a line drive. Nothing what the ball was supposed to do, and I ended up 1.5 feet from the cup.
Well, worse than that, I was playing golf in Scotland in 2013 when we were over there for the British Open, or the Open, excuse me, at Muirfield.
Come on.
And we had a round where we had a day off, so we went and played a little golf, and I was playing with this guy who works for us. His name is Mark Donaldson. He's a fine lad, a giant Scotsman, a gentle human being who may have the worst swing I've ever seen in my life.
Okay.
And it was about a 200-yard uphill par 3, and he hit it probably thinner than you did.
Yeah.
And it went into the hole.
Yeah.
I'm like, that is the ugliest hole-in-one.
It gets there.
Laddie, you had the greatest or worst hole-in-one of all time. Either way you want to look at it. And I was like, oh, I'm so happy for you on that horrible shot. You hit a hole-in-one.
You're a really nice friend.
Oh, I was like, are you kidding me? We did soak him for drinks, though.
I can't wait until I hit a hole-in-one when we're playing together.
I'm going to be very depressed if that happens.
Yeah.
You know who else is depressed?
Who's that?
Charles Barkley.
Holy smoke.
He's a little angry.
Wow.
The bread truck, which, by the way, people call him Sir Chuck and Chucky. His original name was the Bread Truck. When he was at Auburn, they called him the Bread Truck because that's the size of who he was. He was the size of a truck. His original nickname was the Bread Truck. Charles is a little upset.
He really is. All the tweaks that the NBA made of starting the season a little earlier to the back-to-back games and lengthening and not having those and getting rid of a lot of things to make it easier on the player so we don't have players resting.
Yeah.
And this was a discussion, Greeny lost his mind on this, saying it's ridiculous that the players rest because years ago in Charles' era and before, guys played 82 games regularly and the back-to-back games and the whole deal.
And they flew coach.
They did, yeah. Yes, they flew Coach Timmy Legler. Had great stories about that. And so as this season gets ready to start, of course, Charles Barkley was asked about these changes to make it a little easier on the NBA players. And as usual, Charles didn't hold back.
I am so angry at the NBA for telling these guys, wait a minute, we're paying you $30-40 million a year. You can't play basketball 2 days in a row. We just want to make it convenient for them. That $40-50 million they're making a year just can't stress them out. Listen, we flew commercial and we were able to play back-to-back. I've sit with older guys who took trains and played 3 days in a row. The NBA caved in instead of making them play back-to-back games. Move the season up. I think it's a joke. So I just want to commend the NBA for just making it so convenient for these poor babies.
Okay.
Wow.
First of all, that is all kinds of shade, and we love Charles because he doesn't hold back.
No.
And he's more than delightful to share his opinion with anyone who will listen.
Yes, he will.
But at the end of the day, why are you mad? I mean, are you mad because you weren't able to do it?
Yeah.
You know what? Here's the deal. Maybe they are soft, and maybe they are caving to these babies, as Charles Barkley said. But to the babies, I say, good for you. If you can get the NBA to give you all that stuff, take every single thing you can. Because, Charles, I'm looking at you, wherever the camera is. This is us. We're having a conversation. If you could have gotten away with it back in the day, you're telling me you wouldn't have made more money and had private jets and had less time in between games? I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think you would have taken that in a heartbeat.
There's part of the former player in me.
I'm angry.
The sitting on the porch and
kids, get off my lawn.
Oh, the ball's in my yard now. You're not getting it back. Huh?
Come on.
That says, guys,
don't hate the player, hate the game.
There's part of me that says, come on, these guys did it back in the day. Why can't you guys play 82 and back-to-back? But then, it's progress.
Right.
We have learned, and I think we have, because we're seeing it in other sports. In baseball, what are some free agents asking teams? What's the travel like? What's the, how much time do you get to sleep? We've learned so much more about nutrition, about exercise, about all these things and rest and how it's good for the body and how it can prolong your career. So we have more knowledge about it. And if we can say, listen, if we do things a little bit differently, maybe it can help with injury, maybe it can extend career. And what's it hurting?
Yeah.
Is it hurting anything to start the season a week earlier? Is it hurting anything to
business is booming?
Yeah. Is it hurting anything to put the players in position to where you can say they're a little different attitude-wise, but to be there 4 games so the fans don't have to miss them, and I think they're still going to rest some games, but I think the big TV games, and I think a lot of this, NBA will say it's to appease the fans. I think a lot of it was to appease the networks that are paying them billions and billions of dollars,
including this
to say,
one.
Yes, we're going to do things so we have our stars playing on those, primetime games. But I don't see a big issue with it. Like I said, I think we learn, just like we're talking about, the horrible thing of CTE, but learning more about it. We're learning about rest. We're learning about nutrition. We're learning about exercise. And if we can tweak things to better help ourselves, I don't think that's such a big issue.
And again, I
Dave's
get it.
Not getting hurt.
I get it, Charles. I get what you're saying, and we didn't have to do this, and we were just fine. Yes, but if I presented you with 2 options, okay, Mike, I present you with 2 options. We can play a lot of times 4 games in 5 days. You fly coach or commercial, and you'll make half the money. Or you can have more rest between games, you can fly private jets, and you can quadruple your salary. Which of those options are you taking?
Yeah, listen.
Which one are you going to take?
The flying commercial and flying private, that obviously there was no choices in there. That's just how it was, and we've gone to now teams and owners buying planes. So that was an evolution of the game. But also an evolution is finding out more about preparation and how to take care of the body. So I get why former players sometimes have a problem, because I'm one and I have to kind of bite my lip at times to say, okay, I may not like what I see because we did it differently, but that doesn't mean if we had that opportunity.
Different is not necessarily wrong.
Exactly right.
It just means it's different.
Yeah, it's exactly right. So taking out the private planes and the money, because it was what it was then. But if the commissioner then, if David Stern said to these guys, hey, you know what? We're going to lengthen the season. We're going to not do as many back-to-backs. The players would have. Do you think they would have said, no, David, don't do that.
I don't want more money.
These back to back.
I want a flying 27J.
No, I get why older guys complain a little bit, but I think they need to take that breath, step back, and say, times change, players change, and right now we just find out a little bit more and more. If you want to say they're a little softer or a little more sensitive, which some people think athletes of today are,
sure.
Okay, we can have that conversation. But you're not going to turn it down.
No.
And
if everybody was presented that option, you would always choose the option that these guys have.
Yeah, and they didn't threaten to not play. I mean, they worked in conjunction to get this thing done.
They just got something that was better.
Yeah.
Don't want to be upset with them because they got was better.
Yeah.
Now, could they do it the other way? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But don't we always want to choose the path of least resistance?
I know I do.
Right? So anyway, you thought that was progress, right? That we're
yes.
doing this? Good, because Mike and Mike is presented by Progressive Insurance. Pen drop. Nice. Now you can test drive Snapshot even if you have insurance with another company. See how much you can save before you switch. And we're going to switch topics now to a little thing we like to do called Fill in the Blank.
Okay.
All right? So Fill in the Blank, of course, brought to you by Mahindra Tractors and Utility Vehicles. Mahindra USA, the world's #1 selling tractor. So let's do a little Fill in the Blank here. You ready? You want to start? Or I'll start. I'm going to start. One word to describe the Rams' offense so far this season is?
Much improved.
Improved, yes. I would go with improved as
I wanted
well.
to put much, but I want to connect it to improved to keep it at one word.
Yeah.
Much improved.
Just improved.
I say it fast?
Yeah.
All right.
That's good. All right, how about this one? Richard Sherman saying injury reports are so gamblers can get their odds right is?
Duh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Is this groundbreaking?
I mean,
I thought that was well established.
Richard Sherman says, from what I understand, the rules are for gamblers for Vegas to make sure the odds and everything are what they are supposed to be, which is apparently what the league is concerned about when talking about injuries and things like that. So maybe somebody should look into that because I thought we weren't a gambling league and we were against all those things. No, Richard, we're against you players gambling on games. Everybody else can gamble on the games, okay?
In certain states.
In certain states, they're allowed to do it. And the injury report gives them information for that. I'm not sure why he's choosing to make a big deal out of this.
Well, I think maybe, and I would never speak for Richard because Richard speaks very well for himself, but, the NFL has punished players for doing things in casinos, an arm wrestling tournament. Tony Romo for years tried to have a fantasy football convention in a casino, and the NFL wouldn't do it because it was in a casino.
Right.
And then he's like,
they're catering to the gambler.
He's making it,
I get it.
the hypocritical
I get
argument.
They're saying
part of this.
Everybody else can do the gambling. You as players cannot. Now, do I disagree with some of that? Players can't be in a casino? Absolutely. I think it's ridiculous to think because they walk into a casino, all of a sudden we're risking them being,
compromised.
I mean, I completely. And when the Raiders get to Vegas, all that better change.
I was about to say, some of that stadium money is probably coming from some of the casinos.
I still say in that new stadium, I want blackjack in the suites.
That's probably not going to happen.
Awesome.
It would be great. In fact, let's just see if we can make that happen. Okay, how about this one? Ohio State's athletic department being worth $1.5 billion is
staggering. I had no idea.
But there's no money to pay the players.
Oh, okay.
There's never money to pay the players.
Okay.
But
give me a system.
Certainly there's one could be worked out.
Okay. All right. Let me give it to me when you got it.
People much smarter than me would have to figure that out. But I mean, it's hard for me. Ohio State's worth $1.5 billion, or actually 1.51. Texas 1.24, Oklahoma $1 billion, Alabama $30 million,
$930 million. Yeah,
I shorted you guys $900 million there. Sorry, and LSU $900 million. By the way, the other thing there is, we always say, well, we don't have the money to pay the players. Have you seen Clemson's new facility?
It's unreal.
It has a putt-putt course, bowling lanes. I mean,
and
a nap room. It has a nap room.
The cold tub is like a spa.
Now, if you're a player, would you rather not have a nap room and have a little walking around money, or would you rather have the nap room?
Okay, give me the system.
I'm sure it could be worked out.
All right.
Because we are a capitalist society.
Waiting for it.
Again, if you're looking for me to figure this out, I'm saying it can be figured out. I'm the guy that's just throwing the accelerant on the fire. Somebody else smarter than me figure it out. Okay, how about this one? The 2-0 team you trust least this year in the NFL is?
The 2-0 teams are Steelers, Ravens, Broncos, Chiefs, Raiders, Lions, Falcons, Panthers. I'm going to lean toward the Panthers because of the health of Cam Newton.
Or just a lack of consistency on offense.
And Cam worries me. He had the shoulder. He slid and got the ankle. just worries me a little bit.
And again, wasn't that the talk of the offseason? We're going to not do this to Cam. We're
Yeah.
going to put him up in all these kind of different situations. Week 1, a 3rd and goal when they're up 22-0 or 19-0, they run Cam. Like, no. Don't do that anymore because we've seen the problems with Cam Newton. And their 2-0 has been against San Francisco and Buffalo, and they haven't given up a touchdown. They're playing New Orleans this week. Now, New Orleans is 0-2, but I'm pretty sure they're going to test that defense a little more than the first two
And the
opponents
bottom
have.
line is Cam Newton is going to have to move around and run some for them to be the championship team they want to be.
Yeah.
He's not just going to be a pure pocket passer and then win. He's too good on the move to have him stop that completely.
And, of course, we start London games this Sunday.
Yes, we do.
This will be the 18th game, by the way, that we've sent to London. And this will be the 18th game where we don't have two teams with a winning record. So the NFL never having a game with two teams in a winning record in London is
unfortunate.
Unfortunate.
How about that? Is that good?
Way to dance around. That
Yeah.
was a big guy.
Well, I mean, when Jacksonville, a perennial losing record, signs like a 40-year deal to go there every year.
Yeah. I always say, we talk about that special relationship we have with the UK.
Yeah.
I don't think we're treating them very nicely.
No, we need to talk about what they say by in
2022. They want to have it. That's a very interesting discussion,
yes,
and we will get into that. But for the purposes of fill in the blank, you think it's just unfortunate.
Yes.
By the way, it's this Sunday. The Ravens 2-0 against the Jaguars at 1-1. We are delighted to be joined on the program now by one of my favorite guys to watch. As I've covered the NFL all these years, Vince Wilfork, the two-time Super Bowl champ. Big Vince, how are we?
I'm good. How about you guys?
We're doing well, Vince.
No, we appreciate you being with us. And, it's interesting. A lot of people were all over the Patriots after the Week 1 loss Thursday to the Kansas City Chiefs, which had never happened before with them as a Super Bowl champ. I think you were 8-0 at home, opening up under Bill Belichick. And I talked about this with Mike. We talked about it on NFL Live. The surest bet on the board was that the Patriots weren't going to lose Week 2 because the last time, I think, you were still in college the last time the Patriots were 2 games under 500. So what is it about the Patriots' ability to bounce back after a loss?
I mean, when you're dealing with losses in any sport, the main thing is to kind of learn from your mistakes and move on and get better. And I think they do a great job over the course of, years of doing that. Really don't look back at saying what ifs and stuff like that. Is how we can fix it and go forward and win ball games. Being part of them for 11 years, that's always the message, how we can get better and how we can minimize the mistakes. So they did a better job in the second week, and they showed they played New England football. So I think a lot of people expected that. I remember being there when we was 2-2 and we went to Kansas City, and they beat us pretty good, and a lot of people wrote us off then. And we won the Super Bowl that year. So, I mean, you can never count a team out that can go in and make adjustments and figure out what went wrong and get everybody back on the same page and kind of wash away that bad taste and come back out the next week and be successful, which they did. So a lot of credit go to those guys and the coaching staff.
We're talking with Vince Wilfork, whose retirement party will be in Foxborough this weekend. And if you're watching on TV and you see him, he's got a hat.
That's a tremendous hat.
Ribs. It's phenomenal. We're going to get into why
you
that
love
says
that
ribs.
hat.
It's fantastic, and we're going to get.
I love what the hat represents.
That's exactly right. So we'll definitely get to go down that road.
Absolutely.
But let's talk about your
Good
career. Your career in what 12, 13, 14 years, whatever it was, as a nose tackle.
13.
13, right in the middle of it all. And my brother Bob, after his first couple of years actually with the Patriots, before he went to Cleveland and then the Raiders, he was a nose tackle for just about his entire career. He once explained it as being a fire hydrant at a dog show, which how you're treated. How would you explain 13 years of being a nose tackle in the National Football League?
I mean, that's probably a position that it doesn't get recognition. It's all the dirty work. Everything that somebody else don't want to do, like sacks and interceptions and fumbles and tackle for losses and stuff. Well, you can just count all that out as a nose tackle because you really, your game isn't about stats. It's about everything else around you. That triangle in the middle between your nose tackle and your two inside backers, that's your core of your defense when you run in the 34 defense with a nose tackle. So you have to be good in those three areas in any 34. I don't care what type of scheme you run in a 34, but that triangle has to be great. If one of them is off, you're going to always have problems. So it's not a glorified position whatsoever, but you can't be successful running the 34 defense without a nose tackle that knows what he's doing and being able to be durable and smart football player down there. But just as a nose tackle, it's the same thing that goes with your Mike and your Will. So those three in the middle basically set up your whole defense as a 34 defense. And if those three is out of sync, if it's just one of them is out of sync, you'll have problems in that defense. So over the years, you're being able to watch some certain people play that position and just learn from and just take some stuff from, take some game from some of them. It was always something that I always wanted to do was, to be, I always want to learn what I can do to be the best. And, just looking at certain guys that played that position that was basically a staple at that position and had the great defenses because of that position, I kind of, took it under my belt and ran with it. But as a rookie, I really didn't care about a nose tackle. I never played nose tackle in my life. I was a 3 technique and a shade, penetrating upfield. So Bill Belichick and Romeo Crennel and Pepper Johnson, they taught me how to two-gap and taught me what it takes to be a nose tackle. And once I started understanding the game and understand what that position brought to the table, I got good at it. I was really dedicated to being one of the best and being the greatest I could be for my teammates. And, it just took, it took off from there. But over my career, I made some great plays, and you just have to understand plays that you're supposed to make and plays that you're supposed to have somebody else to make. Being an athlete and being so competitive, you want to make every play. But at that position, you got to kind of be disciplined. You got to have patience. And I think as a nose tackle, those are probably the two things that nose tackle have to understand is being patient and know when to make a play. Well, and once I got that, my career kind of took off.
It certainly did, and you're sort of downgrading yourself. I've seen the dancing bear that you are, Vince. Okay, we've seen the interceptions with you, but you not only were a really good player, you're one of the characters of the game that people need. Okay, the video that your wife shot of you grilling was one of the greatest things I've ever seen. I think it was on Memorial Day when you were working that smoker like nobody I've ever seen. And then, of course, when you finished up with the Texans, you show up in those short overalls on Hard Knocks. What was the inspiration behind putting that outfit on out there for national TV?
Well, the craziest thing is I have a ranch in Florida, a 100-acre ranch in Florida, and that's how I dress at my ranch in Florida. I never got a chance to.
Everybody needs to go to that ranch in Florida, then. That's for sure.
So I have pictures of myself baling hay and moving stuff and working out and fishing in my overalls, all different colors. So it wasn't like it was one of those things that all of a sudden came up because I'm in Houston now, that's something that's always been part of me. So I thought it would be cool if, I showed a look, who I am being here in Texas now and with rodeo everywhere and cowboy stuff. And it's like, it's perfect fit for me now. Boston kind of different, but being down here it was perfect fitting for my outfit. So I put it on and it kind of got away from me a little bit. And, but it was fun. That's who I am. I played this game. I played this game full of energy and happy because I loved it. It wasn't nothing else about playing the game. Of course, trying to win Super Bowls and being the best you can be. But at the end of the day, I always wanted to have fun. I like to laugh. I like to joke. I like to stay kind of loose when I'm playing. And that's how my whole career I was like. So, but that's how the overalls came about. It was one of those things where that was something I've already done, and I say it was just perfect timing for my teammates to kind of get a chance and get to know who I am and type of fun I can be, and I think it worked out for all of us.
It did, and for those listening on radio, we'll post this interview with the B-roll of him, grilling in the shorts overalls.
It's beautiful.
Was fantastic. A serious question here before we get to what you're going to be doing this weekend and celebrating your retirement. You saw that Aaron Hernandez, whose brain was found to have the stage 3 of CTE. So generally, we heard Teddy Bruschi talk about it, saying players, as former players, certainly with the information coming out now, there's some worry, you wonder. How about you? You just said 13 years, right in the middle of it all. Do you worry about your future? You're going to have the aches and pains and the joints, we know that. But from the head side of it, the head trauma, do you worry about this?
That's tough because, playing the game that we play is risk in the game. And I try not to think about that, but I know it's a good possibility just because of, playing the game at a high level of football. It's always a possibility in the future. So I don't know what the future may hold, but I can just tell you currently right now I'm fine. It's just one of those things I think come with the territory, but at the same time, you try to be careful. I don't think this is going to go anywhere. You can change all the helmets you want to change. As long as you tackling and hitting each other, it's going to always be some type of concussion or some type of risk involved in football. So, we can cut that out about let's change helmets and let's change this. The fact of the matter is it's a collision sport. So it's going to be things that happen. I don't care, how much you want to change, but I'm not saying don't change, but you have to understand, as long as there is contact in sports, you're going to have problems. Hopefully we can minimize the problems, and that's the goal, is to minimize them. But I don't think you can really kind of take it away. But as far as me, I don't, whatever the future is, it is. I live day to day. I enjoy my day on this earth, happy and being who I am. And if the day comes where I have a problem, we know where it comes from. But as of now, I don't think about it, and I just try to live day to day and just be positive every day.
All right. Well, speaking of the future, this weekend, your retirement party, and so fill us in on Kingsford and how they're going to help out and what you're going to be doing.
Well, one of the things that as a football player with me is I said, man, you know what? I can't wait to retire so I can tailgate. And
you're speaking our language.
It's nothing like going into a stadium and you smelling the food, you seeing the fans. You seeing the pits going, and it's like, oh my gosh, it smells so good. And you got a game in 3 hours. So I say one of the things I wanted to do when I retired was tailgate. So I'm going back this Sunday to Foxborough and live out that dream. And with the help with Kingsford, I always wanted to be the best in what I do. So in order to be the best, you got to work with the best. And that's why Kingsford is the perfect fit for me, because I'm trying to tackle something that I love to do, and that's barbecue. So you got to have the king of Q on your team. So that's why the partnership with Kingsford and myself, I think, is one of the greatest things ever, because I like to do it and they're the best at it. And everything I do, I like to be the best. So I'm going back to Foxborough to celebrate it and have a good time, do something that I always wanted to do, is tailgate. So I'm looking forward to it.
It'll be great. Vince, we appreciate you being with us. You were one of the best to watch all the time in the NFL in your 13-year career. All the best to you, Vince. Thanks
appreciate
so much.
It very much.
Good shape. Thank you, guys.
We roll on. Trey Wingo, Mike Golic here on this Friday. Hope you're getting set for a great weekend. Want to update you on something that you guys spent a lot of time talking about yesterday. There was obviously that horrifying situation where a girl at Yankee Stadium,
yes, 4-year-old
5-mile foul ball into the stands. Well, after that, several teams now have announced plans to expand the protective netting behind their stadium's home plates. I think 3 more. The Reds,
4 more.
Reds, Padres, and Mariners. I've got those 3. Is there another 4? Is there a 4th I'm missing? Because there's 4. That would mean 12.
Reds, Padres, Mariners, and Rockies.
And Rockies. Okay.
Yeah.
And this is a no-brainer. There's no downside to putting up the netting, right?
Yeah.
I don't understand why everybody. What are you waiting for to avoid a horrible situation?
And I heard my son talk about this morning. I talked about it a little bit yesterday. I used athletes. He used what more people would understand is social media. I said, athletes, if you tweak a rule, you get used to it.
Right.
You just learn to adapt to it. What Mike said, and it involves more people, when you update your phone or they change something new is on your Twitter when you update, there's something new. Yeah. There's something different with an app. You're like, oh, my God, why did they change it?
Well,
why did they change it? And then a week later, you're fine. Well, you're like, okay, they changed it, all is good.
And not only that, but changing the Twitter app won't maybe stop someone from having bodily harm.
Well, no, but
I know what you're saying. It's a mindset.
Yeah, the point being, you'll get used to it.
Yeah.
Watching the game through a net.
Mark Teixeira was great on SportsCenter about this. He said, look, he saw something really bad one of his first years, so every time there was a line drive in the stands, he didn't even look.
Doesn't even look.
He just said he looked down to make sure he didn't hear a scream, to make sure that somebody
I'm with
wasn't
you.
hurt.
At this point, it's a no-brainer, and it's not like after this unfortunate event, it's the first time talked about. This has been talked about for a while, and teams and owners, I should say, or teams or stadiums were just been, let's be honest, slow to react to it.
There's no reason not to do it. There's absolutely no reason not to do it. So hopefully everybody will figure that out. I mean, people spend $2,000 to sit behind home plate at Yankee Stadium.
The best seat
is through the netting.
It's through the net. If by next year every team doesn't have the extended net, you'd have a real problem with those teams that don't go down that road.
I agree. Coming up next, a unique college game day tomorrow. We'll get a preview from David Pollack. Plus the coach, Herm Edwards, is on the way. My road dog.
First time skydiving? Sure is. Okay, you just open the door like this and you jump. Wait. Should we be like in tandem? Tandem? That's a great idea. Are you a certified instructor? No, but I love parachutes and I love people. Here we go.
You wouldn't take chances with an uncertified skydiving instructor. Don't do it with your finances. Find a certified financial planner professional today at letsmakeaplan.org. CFP. Work with the highest standard.
Certified financial planner professionals are certified to provide comprehensive financial planning that can address just about any facet of one's financial life, including retirement, estate planning, taxes, education, and more. For more info, go to letsmakeaplan.org to find a CFP professional for you.
Halfway through the show. Wow, that sounds crazy.
You okay?
I'm good. I feel good. I feel ready to do like 5 more hours.
That's good because you have to get used to this.
That's true. Welcome in. Glad you're with us on a Football Friday. Trey Wingo, Mike Golic.
Golic and Wingo. Not a sneak peek.
Yeah, just a teaser. If you will. It's a shrimp appetizer.
And for those out there, November 27th is when you, me, and my son will start our show. November 17th will be the last day of Mike and Mike. And speaking of that, we are giving away bobbleheads. We have an interesting way to give one away.
Do tell.
That we will do in just a little bit. We'll get you all caught up on that.
So for the meantime, we are presented by Progressive Insurance on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. And, of course, all guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be a very busy week.
Yes,
it is. NFL, obviously, on Sunday got underway with the game Thursday night. But it's a very special edition of College Game Day this week. They are going to, for the first time, New York, big city of dreams. They'll be right down in the middle of it all. And joining us on Mike and Mike this morning to talk about that is David Pollack. Hi, David. How's New York traffic treating you this morning?
Well, considering we stayed right there next door, it was awesome. So we just walked over here. We knew better than to fight the traffic, but this is pretty cool. So it's going to be an awesome scene.
I think it's going to be a great scene. But as I told Herbie the other day, you do realize that while there will be so many people that are going to love the show, and you guys are used to that show being loved by everyone, there will be those there that are going to just think you're gay. Boo you, and maybe give a middle finger salute as well.
Yeah, but that's the fun part of the job, Golic. You know that. That's my favorite part. It's just like the people on Twitter that hate you, or every campus you go to, when you make a pick against their team, they're going to boo you. So that's part of the fun. It's not just about the cheers. The boos are just as fun. But I think to do something like this, and we've heard a lot about all these bars every week that are represented by certain universities, that all these alumni come out. So I'm hoping they come out here and we make it a once in a lifetime scene that people really appreciate, and that's really fun.
Well, you hope so, because I remember when the Super Bowl was there, David, a few years ago, and the only positive thing we heard from New Yorkers was, hey, at least you got the characters out of Times Square for a week.
Yeah, that's
the Elmos and the Mickey Mouses. Yeah. That was their big contribution. At least you got them out of the way this week. So let's talk some big things in college football now. A lot of people have sort of looked at the Joshes, Rosen and Allen, and Sam Darnold as the top quarterbacks in football. But after what we saw out of Mason Rudolph last week, where is he ascending in the ranks of the best quarterbacks in college football right now?
Well, I think he's going to put up the best stats. And when you look at his offense, he's playing with a bunch of NFL wide receivers. It's a really awesome offense. He's good, man. He's got some Carson Palmer, I think, to his game where he's going to chuck the ball down the field and try to make big plays. And I don't see anybody that's going to stop him this year. The number one thing you got to do is make him move his feet and get off his spot. And even that he's gotten better at this year. But he's right up there with him. And he's not going to make a lot of mistakes. He's going to spread the ball around in this offense that is really dynamic, really electric, fast-paced. They can run the football. They're doing RPOs. They're doing all kinds of stuff with spacing. So it's an offense that's not going anywhere. You're going to see a lot of points throughout the whole season. And I'm going to be interested to see if Gary Patterson and them can even slow him down this weekend.
That's Gary Patterson, that defense at TCU. Right. Yeah, are they going to be able to? Because he does put up some pinball numbers. And speaking of defense, David, you and I, as both former defensive linemen and playing on that side of the ball, what Clemson is doing, they have a bunch of NFLers on that side of the ball, and if Kelly Bryant, who can run well, their quarterback, starts throwing well, this truly may be the team to beat this year. Do you agree?
Yes, sir. I mean, if you look at the defense, obviously it's reload, it's filthy. 3 first-round draft picks probably along that defensive line. The back end will be tested more throughout the season. Auburn wasn't able to do that, but I think some passing game against them will be fun to watch to see how great their secondary is. But when you look at the offense, we knew it was all good. We knew Deion Kane, Ray McLeod. We knew they had skill. We knew they had line, but we didn't know if the quarterback could throw the football. And Kelly Bryant has proven it so far, throughout a couple games this season. But, I tell you what, the scary thing is he's got a lot of room for growth. If you watch his tape, he's still missing a lot of things that by the end of the season he's probably not going to. So if anybody's going to get Clemson, you might want to get him early before Kelly Bryant gets more experience under his belt, because he's a way better runner than Deshaun Watson. We can put that out there. If he can continue to evolve as a passer, hit those intermediate passes and make those proper reads, the deep ball is going to be there because of the way he runs, and the playmakers are there. So it definitely could be an offense that by the end of the season, if he's developed, it's going to be really, really tough to stop.
David Pollack with us, of course. College game day going to be from New York City this weekend for the first time. So we just talked about Clemson, who was in the national championship game the last 2 years, as was Alabama. David, they've got a really interesting matchup this week as they take on Vanderbilt in Nashville, and you've got quarterback Kyle Shermer for the Commodores, who's the number 1 quarterback in the SEC in QBR, and you know the stat, 4 times out of the 5 times that Alabama has played the quarterback in the SEC with the number 1 QBR, they've lost. What are we expecting in this game between Vanderbilt and Alabama?
Well, Trey, the one difference is that was Ole Miss and Johnny Manziel and players and weapons all over the field. It wasn't just at the quarterback spot. Kyle Shermer's a really, really good quarterback. He doesn't have the personnel around him where he can, where those guys can make a bunch of plays for him. He's very efficient. He's been very smart with the football. But Trey, the only way they win this game is if Vanderbilt plays great defense and gets those that Alabama offense in passing situations. Passing situations, Jalen Hurts is still developing as well. Calvin Ridley is the number 1 guy, so take him away, make him go to the number 2 guy, and see what happens with Alabama. But listen, I think this could be a sneaky good game. I think Vanderbilt can hang around. I think Vanderbilt is going to be in contention for the SEC East this year. I think they're going to be one of the 3 teams that are fighting at the end. I think they're going to win 8 or 9 games, but this weekend, not so much.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. The 4 quarterbacks that won as top-rated quarterbacks in the SEC against Bama. 2008, it was Tim Tebow. 2010, Cam Newton. 2012, Johnny Manziel. 2015, Chad Kelly. Then the next year, Chad Kelly was the one loss in there. Overall, David,
no offense to Shermer, right, Mike Golic? No offense to Shermer, but those names are pretty solid.
Yeah, and I don't hold out a lot of hope for Vandy, unfortunately.
Let's be clear, though. When everyone says no offense, offense is coming.
Yeah.
That's how that works.
Kind of how that works. So, we're talking about the Alabamas, the Clemsons. We talked about Oklahoma State a little bit, Penn State as well. Who are some teams in your eyes that aren't getting, even though it's early in the season, aren't getting talked about enough for the potential of where they could be at the end of the season?
Well, I think we're covering. Here's what I know, Mike. Right now, I think there are 3 teams that have proven themselves in college football: Alabama, Oklahoma, and
Clemson?
wow, what did we just talk about? Clemson. Those three teams are a cut ahead above everybody. I mean, they have proven it. They've had at least one big showdown. Everybody else is kind of wait and see. I think Penn State this week. I want to find out more about Penn State this week when they play Iowa. I know Iowa's not the best team in the country, but I think they can challenge them in several aspects. And how do they respond? Can they get after the quarterback for Iowa and make him or sack him like they have everybody? Like hadn't been able to get pressure on quarterbacks. And so I think everything else in college football is fluid. Is Oklahoma State for real? We're going to find that out this weekend, I think, against TCU. But the three knowns are those three teams that I think you're going to be in contention the whole season long. That's not going to change. Those three are going to be there. I think it's going to be who's the next person that's going to spoil the party.
Well, listen, speaking of spoiling your party, as a proud Georgia Bulldog, you got to be a little concerned with Mississippi State up next after what we saw them do to LSU over the last weekend. I mean, they absolutely destroyed the Tigers, and now they take on your Bulldogs.
Yeah, not a little concerned, a lot concerned. And, listen, when do we start giving Dan Mullen more credit for how good of a coach he is? I mean, you've seen the quarterbacks that he finds. He always finds, and you can go back as long as you want, he's going to find dual-threat guys like he did at Florida with Tim Tebow. And I know Urban Meyer was there. But then you go and you find Dak Prescott, big, strong. Now you look at Nick Fitzgerald, big, strong quarterbacks that are physical, that can run his power run game, that also now can play action and develop as a passer. Golly, he's done such a great job against the defense with Georgia that, man, you finally look at this defense and you go, this is back to how it used to be. This is back to great defense, great players all over the field. Can they stop a mobile quarterback? Can they make him throw the football? And then the other side, Georgia's offensive line. And you talk about Jake Fromm as a freshman coming in. The offensive line has to do a better job. They played Sanford last week. Sanford, it's 4th and less than 1, and you can't pound Sanford for 1 yard. I mean, that's an issue. Can that offensive line give space for Sony Michel, Nick Chubb, Swift, all these running backs, all these guys? So it's going to be a great showdown. And, Trey, I think one thing we find out is who's the biggest threat to Alabama in the SEC. The winner of this game probably shows us who the biggest threat is to Alabama.
Let's go on down the rankings a little bit and do a team we saw last night. They score 30 points about 900 games in a row now. Charlie Strong taking over at South Florida. They're number 21. They dismantle Temple last night, 43-7. They got a kid in Quentin Flowers at quarterback who's rivaling Lamar Jackson for some of his numbers that he's putting up. What do we think of this team as a non-Power 5 kind of moving up the rankings?
Well, one thing that's cool as we know is every year that there's a non-Power 5 team that's going to crash the party, and that's guaranteed. And who's it going to be? Listen, they got speed on the offense. They got skill at the quarterback. They can run the football. They can throw it. If you watched them against Illinois 2 weeks ago, Mike, you probably would have said, Lord have mercy, can we have any more penalties? Because that game had 30 penalties in it, and it was really, really sloppy. I'd like to see more consistency from USF. You saw them start the season. They've had some slow down moments, and then they've had some moments like last night where they remind you. But San Diego State's a team that we're going to be talking about. You look at, they just beat Stanford. They're going to be probably undefeated this year. They play Boise State. They have more opportunities as a group of 5 team to crash the party now with their resume and what they did last week. So I think San Diego State and USF are both group of 5 teams that you better pay attention to.
David Pollack with us from New York City. College Game Day will be there. You guys really missed an opportunity because Bill Polian's not playing safety for NYU anymore. That's when Game Day really should have gone to New York. You guys could have worn the fedora hats that had press right there on the hat band. But we talk so much, David, about quarterbacks, and obviously it's a quarterback-driven league in the NFL. But what to make of Saquon Barkley, the running back from Penn State? He's your Heisman Trophy favorite, isn't he?
He's the guy, man, that if you told me to pick the best player in college football, it's Saquon Barkley. I mean, just huge. He's a big – you don't realize how big he is. He's powerful. One of those dudes that squats 650 pounds, cleans over 400 pounds. But then he's, 220, 230 and fast, can start and stop. I mean, he's literally got everything. When you start comparing him to a guy like Ezekiel Elliott, he's got everything Ezekiel Elliott's got. Now, he's not the third down back, I would say, in pass protection, but you give this guy the ball, he can catch it out of the backfield. He can make people miss. I mean, he literally, to me, if I was starting a team, Trey, and I had one pick from anybody in college football, Saquon Barkley would be it. He's got a combination of everything and really makes that Penn State offense go and makes everything easy on Trace McSorley and all those receivers and all that offensive line.
It's interesting. 2 years ago, people said the running back position was dead. Yeah. And you see Todd Gurley did what he did his rookie year, and Zeke has been great, and now we're talking about Saquon Barkley as the next big back out there, comparing him to Zeke. David, we appreciate your time. We know you got a lot to do. Go get a dirty water dog, by the way.
There you go.
8:30 in the morning, nothing better than a street dog. Avoid the shish kebab, though, because that meat's out there and it's a little raw.
Yeah.
That could be bad. Dirty water dog, your best bet at 8:15.
No, absolutely not to any of those. I will leave that to you and Golic.
Come on, man.
Nope.
Thanks, man.
David Pollack.
See you guys.
Take care. He's not doing the dirty water.
He brings his own food everywhere.
Yeah.
He eats incredibly well right
he's
now.
1/3 of the human he once was.
Yeah. And speaking of Saquon Barkley, NFL scouts on Barkley, he's the best running back prospect. This is one NFL scout. He's the best running back prospect I've seen in the last 4 years. He's a different kind of dude. If he's not a top 10 pick, I'd be shocked. Saquon Barkley is better than Zeke. He's faster than Zeke, has more twitch. Barkley is a different guy with an extra gear. He'll never get caught from behind. Zeke doesn't get caught often, but he can. So This guy, 5'11", 230, he can truck you or he can run by you. Well, he's caught, I believe, 11 passes already this year, caught 28 the year before, 20 the year before that. You got to be able to do that. I said that's the next step for Todd Gurley, who didn't do it a lot, but the system didn't ask him to do it a lot in LSU. And you see he's catching the ball now more for the Rams. So that's something that Barkley will do more even in the NFL. But watching him run, if it's not a quarterback that wins a Heisman, because it's normally a quarterback award, or a running back, it's going to be this guy. He is that good. He is fun to watch because, like I said, he'll run you down or run past you. And obviously his team's doing pretty well as well.
You just look at his numbers here. His first year he averaged, as he had over 1,000 yards, he averaged 5.9 yards a carry. Very good. Next year he had almost 1,500 yards, averaged 5.5 yards a carry. This year he's averaging 8 yards a carry. 8 yards a carry. So my problem is, why are you only giving him 38 attempts? If he's averaging 8 yards. I'm just doing the math, James Franklin, and I'm trying to figure out, why don't you give him more carries if you're getting 8 yards a carry?
Well, probably because, of the way they're beating teams and they don't have him in the game much.
You mean 52 to nothing, 32 to 14, and 56 to nothing?
Yeah,
that would do it.
It's kind of on the sideline.
Yeah.
Is what
and you got to give James Franklin a lot of credit here, because he sort of invented himself at Vanderbilt and made Vanderbilt football relevant for the first time in a long, long time. And he could have stayed at Vanderbilt and been a legend in a great town, by the way.
Right.
Nashville, Tennessee is an awesome place. There's a lot of great things going on there. And he took Vanderbilt to bowl games, 3 years in a row?
Right.
Which had never happened. And he could have been the legend of all time in Nashville, Tennessee, because he made Commodore football relevant again, in a great place to live. And he kind of risked it all to go back to, look, he's a Pennsylvania guy, to go back and take over Penn State at a time where it did not seem like that was a really good place to be after Bill O'Brien had left with everything that had gone on with Jopa. And suddenly he's made Penn State into a powerhouse again. He
has. He absolutely has. So, he had some excellent players there. Certainly, some going into the draft, and this guy is going to be the next one. He's had some good pass rushers as well. And that program, they were right in the mix last year. They were talked about a ton as, was it going to be Ohio State or them? And they're going to have themselves in the mix again this year. I'm pretty sure of that. So we'll see where it goes. All right, I have a question for you.
All right, I have an answer for you.
We talked earlier about the kid, Ben Tetzlaff.
Congratulations.
He's the 17-year-old from Parkland High in Pennsylvania, where he has
2 holes in one.
67 million to 1 odds of 2 hole-in-ones in a round of golf. It was actually a 9-hole practice round.
So that's probably really 134 million.
He did it on hole 2.
He did it in half as many holes.
And then hole 6. 2 hole-in-ones.
Yeah.
So I got a text from my buddy Pat Weiss, Charlie Weiss's brother Pat Weiss, who I golf with in these tournaments, whether it's the Monday after the Masters or different tournaments, Charlie Weiss's tournament. We golf together. We have libations together. We enjoy each other's company. Yes, we have a low. We've golfed many times together.
Swing will be coming my way at 10:15 this morning.
There you have it. He texts me that he believes it was Jerry West's son David, who 2 times in a round on 2 par 5s got 2 albatrosses,
2 double eagles.
Yes.
Yeah.
So one.
He had a 2 on a par.
A 2 on a par 5, 1 from 180 and 1 from 250. And I don't golf enough. Yeah. Is that much harder than 2 hole-in-ones?
Yes.
Yes,
absolutely.
Okay. See that? I mean, would you rather have that or hole-in-one?
I think I'd rather have the hole-in-one.
I think you'd rather have the hole-in-one, right?
Of the stigma of an ace.
Yeah.
Putting up a 1 He's really look. Albatrosses
I put up
are
one finger. It's not normally been that finger.
And that's normally at your partner for beating you.
Exactly right.
That's exactly right. So look, statistically, I think what Pat is saying is much more difficult.
That's what he said. He said he believes it 100%. He said statistics show that. Okay.
Yes. He's right there. But if you could say, like, for example, if you went to a bunch of non-golfers and said, hey, I had a hole-in-one, they'd be like, oh, one shot, perfect. You say, hey, at an albatross, they're like, what are you talking about? Or double eagle, what are you talking about?
So statistically, that's harder, but nobody would choose that over a hole-in-one.
I don't think so.
I would be stunned right as well, yeah.
I made eagles, never made double eagles, but the idea of a hole-in-one, you get a plaque. You get your name in the paper when you get a hole-in-one. I don't think you get those, even though they're harder. I mean, what's the stat? It's much harder to hit for the cycle than it is to throw a no-hitter. Isn't that what it is?
We had a bunch of that before. But
Hembo, I count on you for one thing. Ridiculous.
You're thinking of the
stats.
perfect game, not the no-hitter.
That's what it is. Thank you. So get on that and do your old Hoss Radburn stuff.
Hoss Radburn.
But, I mean, I think more people would rather have that than hit for the cycle. You know what I mean? I think it resonates with people more the other way.
Definitely. It just costs you more money hitting the hole-in-one.
Because you're buying drinks for everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So double
pretty
eagle
impressive.
Twice. That is very good.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
pretty impressive.
Especially if one's from over 200 yards.
50.
That's.
See, usually, and when we play golf together, you'll see this. If we're over 250 on a par 5, I tee it up in the fairway. Is that wrong?
Not with me.
I don't mean with a tee.
I mean, there are some purists.
I don't mean with a tee. I just dig my heel in the ground and to kind of,
That's fine.
Okay.
We'll put a little, fluff it up there a little bit.
All right. Okay. I just want to make sure that was okay.
We're going to do fine on the golf course.
Yes, we are.
I mean, as much as I love the game, and I love the game. I love the game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not one of, that ball oscillated. That's a stroke.
Yeah. It oscillated because I kicked it.
But I mean, we actually talk about this, and you probably don't care enough, but there are so many rules in golf which are so insidious.
Dumb?
Well, that's one way to look at it.
What has more ridiculous rules, golf or the NCAA?
well, I think baseball's old Hoss Radford unwritten rules.
Yeah, well, there you
As
go.
I've always said, if those rules are so important, write them down.
Write them down.
If did you find anything for me on this? Is on my screen? Okay. The rarest of occurrences, thanks to old Haas Hembakitis. Baseball achievements. 20 strikeout games, that's happened 5 times. Unassisted triple plays, 15 times. 4 home run games, 18 times. Perfect games, 23. And no-hitters, 273, and cycles 318.
So let me just pick these two. Would you rather strike out somebody 20 times? Again, it's 20 times. It's happened 5 times, 20 strikeouts.
Well, as someone who struck out a lot.
In a 9-inning game. Would you rather be known to say, I have a 20 strikeout game or I threw a perfect game?
I'd rather have a hole-in-one. Just being honest, I'd rather have a hole-in-one.
Is Herm here yet?
Old Hoss Mordecai Hadburn Radbrown can 3 Fingers Pie Trainer can get that for us.
Is it possible that I can hate you this early in the relationship?
Pretty much.
Even though our relationship goes back a decade?
Exactly. But in this genre, it's just beginning. Mike and Mike rolls on. It's really Golic and Wingo in disguise today. We'll be with you starting 11:27. This show will come to an amazing conclusion after its great run on November 17th. We are presented by Progressive Insurance on ESPN Radio and ESPN2, and all guests on the phone appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And then there are the legends that join us in person. Ladies and gentlemen, happy to welcome in my road dog.
Oh, road dog.
Road dog, Herm Edwards. Now, people might say, why do you call Herm your road dog? And actually, I must say, Herm started calling me his road dog first for these reasons.
Yes, because it seems, you'll appreciate this, Mike, that when I met Trey, and it was 8-9 years ago now, he loves playing golf. I love playing golf, and it seems that we've taken these trips all of a sudden all over the country playing golf. You know, we're the two guys that if you call us up and say, hey, there's free golf, we're in. We're going.
We're raising both hands.
We go up, and we played golf almost. I mean, we played golf at least, 5, 6, 7 states already now?
Yeah.
And we just kind of knocking them off the list.
It's my road dog.
It's been good.
It's my road dog.
It's been good.
So my road dog is here with us.
That's pretty nice.
It is. And no better guy to play with than Herm. He's a lot of fun to golf.
How about this for a segue? How about those road dog LA Rams last night? Come on, that was a good one.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you look at this team over 42 times. Thank you very much.
Yes.
I'll be here all week.
Yes.
Next week.
Try the veal.
we knew the defense was good. We know Aaron Donald's going to get paid, but let's talk about the evolution of Jared Goff.
Watched him the first game. Did their game on radio versus the Colts, and you could see right then he was a confident guy. Talking to Les Snead on the sideline,
the GM of the Rams.
The GM of the Rams. The conversation we had was it went this way. He said, "Look, Herm," he says, "I got to give him some guys, that can help him." He goes out and gets Woods. He goes out and gets Sammy Watkins, right? They got Higbee to tight end. Gurley, we know. They
couple of switches on the O-line.
Right? And now they got a coach that understands this young man's strengths and has put him in position to play well. So he comes to the Colt game and plays pretty well. Last week, prior to this game, he loses, makes a bad throw. This game is kind of a little pressure on him. They haven't beaten San Francisco 3 times, right? Now, that staff wasn't there, but it's a big game for him.
Especially Jared back in the Bay Area where he's from.
Right across the street, went to Cal, lived up the road, got
San Rafael.
40 tickets. I mean, he has, by the way, fans, the players have to pay for the tickets. They don't get them for free.
No, they don't.
Remember that. But that's another story. And came out last night and really made some nice throws down the field. I mean, that's what's impressive.
Right,
Samuel, this is down the chimney. We call this right down the chimney. Hit him in stride and did a nice job in the red zone. When you're a quarterback, you want to play efficient in the red zone, 2-minute, third down. He did the 2-minute before the half ended when they scored. That was a big drive for him. Yeah. They got the ball. They had about 1:58. He takes them right down the field, 75-yard drive. They score. So, I mean, he's starting to develop confidence in what he's doing as a quarterback. It has a lot to do with the coach and obviously the position he puts him in with the formations and the players that surround him. So I like what I see. Rams defense, Mike, still a little shaky against the run.
Right.
Yeah. Which is funny because they got Aaron Donald back.
Well, and it's the linebackers, the fits, and then special teams almost came back to haunt him last night.
Yeah.
I mean, the fumble punt, Austin, right?
And then the onside
the onside kick. And then the kickoff, they fumbled.
Right.
Yeah.
That's.
By the way, it's a great onside kick.
Yeah.
Oh,
that double bounce and then popping real
Who would
high
have ever thought this would be the highest scoring Thursday night game?
Absolutely.
80 points.
It's crazy. And to your point about Jared Goff and the development, you said it. Quarterbacks want to win on third down, red zone, and the 2-minute drill.
Yes.
He didn't take a sack on third down Thursday night. Goff had taken 15 sacks on third down, the most in the NFL since he debuted in Week 11. And by the way, as great as that segue was by you, Mike, about Road Dogg, they were actually a favorite in the game. So I just want to throw that out there. So it was the execution.
I just meant going on the road. I didn't mean
going on the road.
You know what? I didn't really realize Road Dogg.
I didn't want to bring you down, but the control room said bring him down.
Yeah.
But we talked about this earlier in the show, Herm, and I think this is a testament, and I believe you'll really appreciate this. Coaching matters in the NFL. This is the same guy as a year ago, and sure, it's a one year more in the NFL, but this is a brand new system. It's a totally different thing he had to learn with a new quarterbacks coach, a new offensive coordinator, and a new head coach in Sean McVay. When you see the same guy be completely different in another year with a different system, it shows you how important coaching is, especially at the NFL level.
Very important, especially at the quarterback. That's the most difficult position to play in football. And what he's done, he simplified some things as far as his reads, how he can dictate coverage with formations that appear offensively. And you see it over and over with this guy. A lot of one-back sets, the same plays repeated, maybe change the formation. They got this little jet sweep they run with Austin. And, Gurley is a big part of the offense, not only running the ball, but catching the ball. He's been targeted the most. Mm-hmm. He's been targeted 15 times. Now, Woods, obviously, Sammy Watkins and Higbee, they're the other targets, Cooper Kupp. So he's built the offense around the kid where he understands it. Some of his best throws, Jared Goff, are inside the hashes. Now, he made some excellent throws, obviously, down on the boundary.
There's a little slant to Sammy Watkins.
Yes.
It was a great throw.
Well, that was his old Seattle play.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the Seattle play, done correctly, right? Yeah. I mean, he says the line is done correctly. But I know this, both these coaches, what they bring to the table is this, a lot of energy. They're young coaches, and they're both in different situations. Kyle Shanahan with John Lynch are in a rebuilding mode. They got to tear it down and start over. Okay, well, they understand that. McVay comes in, remodel, had some good players, collected a couple more good players, have a good quarterback, have their quarterback in place, have some good players on defense. They have really a head coach on defense in Wade Phillips.
Without question.
So he can just stay on the offensive side, and you see it unfolding for him right now, playing well.
So in other words, the difference between the two teams, one is one you want to flip and one is a complete teardown. One's a gut job and one's just remodeling.
One is like, you walk in and you go, you know what, we got some nice furniture in here, but I don't like it in this room. I'm going to change it over there. So he's kind of
new countertops, you're good to go.
You know how they do. You know, not like your wife and my wife. They want a whole new house. Right. They want a whole new house. No, we don't want to. No, we want a new one. Just tear it down, start over.
And they have the 6-year contract.
Your wife too. I know your wife too. Just tear it down, start over.
And speaking of that, there's a number of winless teams, but some the expectation that they were going to not do well. Right. But there's a couple of teams, and I know you coaches go by quarters of season, 4 games at a time. Yeah. But is it too early to start to wonder if there's going to be some panic in Cincinnati and with the Giants, 2 teams that were expected to do more than what we see right now? And by the way, Cincinnati goes to Green Bay and the Giants go to Philadelphia, but haven't won and haven't looked good. So is it panic time in those cities?
Well, you know what time it is in those cities?
Hammer time?
And bigger than that, it's player time. It's player time. You know, the coaches can say all the stuff and go before the masses and say, we're going to do this. These players need to look at each other and say, look, in Cincinnati and with the Giants, they got to look at each other and say, hey, guys, we got good players here. When are we going to get tired of losing? Yeah. We need to go win a game, guys. It doesn't matter what the call is. You know, players get, it's a call. It's the system. No. It's players now. Players got to look at each other and say, look, you know, we have a good team, guys. We know how to win. We've won before. Let us go win a game now. Okay? Don't worry about the system. Don't worry about the call. Don't worry about the defense we're in or the offensive play. Let's go win a game, guys. The players need to kind of rise up now and start talking.
Well, we talk about that a lot. I mean, in the locker room, when you start 0-2, look, we know what the stats are. You only make this playoffs 12% of the time. You know, do players and coaches sort of treat it like fans? Because we're like, hey, if they don't win this week, the season's over. Do you I mean, you don't send that message to the players, but is that an underlying thought process that either the coaches or the players have?
First of all, the coach can't panic.
Yeah.
He can't blink. You have to stay. You have to be who you are. You can't all of a sudden start becoming somebody you're not. I went through this. We got in the playoffs both times
with the Jets.
We start out and
Kansas City.
We start out slow and whoa, I didn't. I told the coach, don't panic. We're okay. We'll get it fixed. And you got to tell players this, guys. Our problems are never bigger than our purpose. The purpose is we got to go win a game. And I always tell players this. Just go win a game. I want to walk in the locker room and watch you guys just be excited.
Happy.
Again.
Yeah.
Don't you want to put a smile on your face? Don't you want to go to dinner after the game and not sit in the corner where it's dark? Where you actually come in the restaurant and people are applauding you because you won a football game? Don't you want that instead of going in the back? You know, where it's dark and I don't want nobody to see me right now, right? I mean, come on. Let's go.
Go through the drive-thru.
Yeah, come on. Let's stop all
that. I handed you the bag of fries.
Let's go win the football game, right?
I'm not gonna lie, I still can't believe you went hammer time.
I will. Hammer here, hammer go, hammer there. I apologize. So, listen, we got a lot to talk with you, okay? You're stick around. We got a lot of things to talk about, including what we learned about Aaron Hernandez, as well as what we're seeing in Denver with the quarterback. We roll on, Mike and Mike, or Trey and Mike, or Golic and Wingo in this situation. Reminding you that if you want to get in touch with us, tweet us at Mike and Mike through the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. Nothing, and I mean nothing, makes up for your fantasy football obsession like surprising your family with a bouquet from 1-800-Flowers.com. To order 36 autumn roses for just $36, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. And speaking of tweets, this one came in from Russ Taylor. Let Coach Edwards know he's looking very sharp and dapper today.
Thank you very much. My wife dresses me, as you know that.
Absolutely
Trey.
right.
She dresses me.
And listen, I'm right there with you.
We're all the same boat. And if I have anything that's a little bit not in place, I get the call.
Me too.
So she just picked out that T-shirt and jeans for you?
This she doesn't care so much.
That's hard to do.
Not so much.
It's when I used to go like a week on the road. We were doing for the Super Bowl. She would actually match up all the outfits.
Our
like
brides are built the same. Our brides are all built the same.
Zebra goes with zebra.
It's the truth. I wear something wrong, and the call is waiting after
no
the
doubt.
show.
Yeah. So anyway, Herm, one of the things we wanted to talk to you about, because the story came out yesterday that Patriots tight end Aaron Hernandez, who of course committed and was convicted and now has been vacated of those crimes because of the Massachusetts loophole where he never had an appeal, was found to have CTE, and that's obviously stage 3 CTE.
Yeah.
And it's caused a lot of discussion, and it will continue to cause a lot of discussion.
Which is good.
which is a good thing. And Herm, you played 10 years in the league?
Yes.
You are 63 years old.
Yes, sir.
You are sharp as a tack today as you were the first day I met you. And I guess the question becomes, how do you handle this? Because you see some people struggling, and then we see people like yourself and Golic and Teddy and who all appear to be just fine. You know, it's a hard thing to get around.
Yeah, it's a disease that we're still gathering information on, and I think this was an eye-opener for me, though, when I heard about Hernandez and how young he is and the stages that he's in at this point. You know, that's one of those where you go, whoa. And I don't know about you, Mike, but you know, we get our physicals every year, you know, and all that stuff, which you need to do, obviously. And there's certain things, and I don't know if you feel this way, I don't want to know. I got into a point in my life where I'm going, you know, what obviously will bother me later on in my life that has something to do with football. And I never want to get mad at the game of football. Right. I just don't. I'm not built that way because I chose this profession. God gave me a talent, and I didn't waste it. And I was given an opportunity to play a game.
You didn't miss a game in your career.
No, never missed a practice.
Never missed a practice, nor
from high school to college to professional.
You were sort of the Joe Thomas of your era.
Yeah, I didn't, you know, and because I always felt compelled to be available and to be accountable to my teammates. That's what football's about, basically. It's about accountability to the guys that you walk in the huddle with. And I wanted to honor the game in the fact that when I practiced, you know, that's the game. It's a game of practice. The game takes care of itself. No one's around when you're practicing. It's just the players and the coaches. There's no one's in the stands. Do you enjoy that? I enjoyed the preparation of this. It made me who I am, to be quite honest. It teaches you so many life skills that I'm not mad at the game of football. I'll never be mad. Now, when you see things like this that come up, you want them to do and gather more information. Right. So we have the information available for young people, for parents to decide, or for an athlete to decide, you know what, maybe I don't want to do this. That's okay. I chose to do this. I'll never be mad at football. If 20 years from now something happens to me and I have this, I go, okay, all right, I'm okay. I get it. I'm not going to be mad at the game of football. I'm not. I'm not going to blame it on football.
Listen, I agree with you, and we also played in a time where there wasn't as much information available, just like many things in life where you get more information and you learn more, and you say, okay, now I can approach it this way. So players today, I'm talking more about professional players, and then parents with young kids, you decide. You know, there's plenty of things to read out there, and you can decide which direction you want to go. That's what happens when we get information, and we still need, obviously, more information, but you empower yourself with knowledge about something where we didn't have a lot of this when we played, and we chose, as I said, I chose to stick a needle if I had to block pain. I chose to take a pain pill. I chose to do whatever I had to do to play, knowing there would be some ramifications. That was on me. I feel exactly the same way you do, you know, but it doesn't mean, you know, you don't wonder every now and then what may happen, but you understand, you know what, I chose to go out and play this.
Look, I got a bad knee, okay, and I got a bad shoulder. I'm okay. I'm good. I get it.
I got a bad knee and a bad shoulder, and I didn't play.
Yeah, what I'm saying. So, I mean, you know, and I always tell, you know, people say, well, you know, when you get older, you know, football catches up to you. When you get older, everything, it catches up to everybody.
Exactly right, yeah.
I shouldn't feel like I'm 30 years old because I'm not 30 years old anymore. Right. I get that part. So, you know, I just live with it and go, you know what? I'm not mad at the game at all. I'm really not. Yeah. Now, I'm mad if you do not allow the proper information.
Right. And that's something that has changed dramatically from when both of you played.
That's important. Yeah. So you can decide. Because life is about choices.
Yep.
We're all a collection of our choices. And as long as you tell me, you know, if you choose here, this is what happens. If you choose here, this is what happens.
Right.
And let me be the choice of that, but give me the information.
I think that's the greatest thing now is we're getting so much more information and still more to gather to be able to make whatever decision you want to make. You know, whether it's a parent making a decision for a kid or a professional athlete making a decision for himself. So that's kind of where we're at, and it's you know, another headline we have here with Aaron Hernandez.
And again, the point we've been trying to make is people are going to see a straight line between he had CTE, so that explains why he did what he did. And I don't think you can do that.
No.
At this point.
Too early.
You cannot do that. You have to be concerned, and it is something that every parent or every player is going to have to think about with CTE, obviously, going forward. Herm, as always, we appreciate you, Rody. He'll be on NFL Live. We'll get our 5-point stance and Golic's pick against the Geeks on this Football Friday. That's ahead.
First time skydiving?
Sure is.
Okay, you just open the door like this and you Are you a certified instructor? No, but I love parachutes and I love people. Here we go.
You wouldn't take chances with an uncertified skydiving instructor. Don't do it with your finances. Find a certified financial planner professional today at letsmakeaplan.org. CFP. Work with the highest standard.